This is Chris Chopic. I am just doing a screencast here to react to today's announcements regarding mortgage financing. And one of the things that is subtexted in today's conversation is a contrast in our desire to, or our ability to, effectively carry the debt associated with renting versus owning. So, and here's the real sort of logic here. If today I'm spending X number of dollars on rent, and I can go out and buy a similar quality of life, that is similar location, similar characteristics of my house for a similar amount of money, it makes more sense to pay myself for the borrowed money than it does to pay my landowner. However, if I'm going to have to pay twice the price to own a similar quality of life, it may not make sense for me to spend the extra dollars as a renter in order to become an owner. That's one of the reasons that today's legislation is coming down, is because there is a contrast between these two things in some of our Canadian markets. So that's the why, although I must say that this legislation is primarily focused on speculation type property and high leverage property. It still makes a lot of sense in Canada to own the house you live in, because it is the only place that you can have capital gains that are not taxable. So it makes sense to invest in real estate. You just want to make sure that you're investing in the right kind of real estate, the kind of real estate that has a future, and the kind of real estate that's going to give you a good quality of life every single day that you live there. And for me, that means that it's got to be close to transit alternatives. And I don't mean just taking the TTC in Toronto, I mean any kind of transit. That includes buses in Burlington, that includes LRTs in Vancouver, no matter where you're living, but it also includes other things such as safe bicycle infrastructure and the availability of amenities and conveniences that are part of everyday life by walking. So I'll say that there are two kinds of real estate in our greater Toronto area. One is a suburban form and the other is an urban form. And the suburban form cannot separate itself from the automobile. That is, everyone who lives in those houses needs to spend both time and money on a vehicle in order to be able to live there. So in addition to the cost of the asset, the house, the cost of carrying the mortgage on a house, you also have added to that the cost of driving the car. And if you take an average car in Canada, so a Honda Civic for example, and you have a good driving record, you're going to expect to spend roughly $600 a month in car payments, maintenance, insurance, and gas. That $600 in today's money, or at a mortgage rate of 6%, will allow you to borrow $100,000. Now, the reason I think that the urban marketplace has so much more to offer in terms of security of investment than the suburban marketplace is because I can then, by eliminating my use of the car, afford $100,000 worth of real estate. And what that also allows me to do is to recapture time. So if I'm spending, let's say, 1 hour per day, no, let's say 2 hours per day, 1 hour each way, in a car, that's 10 hours a week. And that eventually is 6 weeks per year. Now, can you think of anything to do with 6 weeks per year? I sure can. I'd rather take 6 weeks a year and ride the subway and read a book. I'd rather spend 6 weeks a year walking and cycling and improving my cardiovascular health. And so here's what I want to really get to the bottom of quickly. If I own an urban piece of real estate, it is a smart place to invest my money. It's definitely a smarter place to invest my money than a car, a depreciating asset, which also comes with a heavy price in terms of time required in order to commute using it. Rather spend my time on transit, walking, and cycling in an urban context where my property value is not as aggressively affected by markets for energy and also by general availability of employment.